and welcome to Cahnmanns Current Events Roundtable. Today we are welcoming back two of our famous guests that I've had before. One is to my viewers' left, right?
Right, I'm on the left.
And Democrat, Drobny, who is our attorney on our show. Welcome back to our show.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thanks for having me here.
You're welcome.
I look forward to a nice debate with Alan.
That's right. And Alan, we are also welcoming back, who is our former executive and in his corporation strategy and mergers and acquisitions, and it's a mouthful, and our famous Republican, Alan Minoff.
Thank you, Suzanne. Nice
Welcome
to be
back to you. And we're looking forward to this show, which is called Facts versus Fiction on the Presidential Election. And we have a lot of facts, we have a lot of fiction, and we're going to figure out what's facts from fiction. So I think you get prepared, because we're going to talk about that. And I'd like to start with why it's so important that and I think we had talked a little bit about this earlier, because I don't remember President Kennedy's taxes released, and he probably had more money than anybody. You know, because of the Merchandise Mart and the Kennedy name, but I don't remember his taxes. And why is it so important that these tax records of our candidates be released? I mean, everyone that runs for office basically has to be pretty well-to-do, or they can't run, you know, or they can't run for office. I mean, somebody that's very poor wouldn't be able to put up any money. So why is it so important that we have to know their tax records? And I think I'm going to hand this to my Democrat over here, and then you could rebuttal this as well, because it's you know, I mean, what does it do? I mean, if we know what the candidate has, because it has nothing to do with what's going on in this world. Why do we have to know how much money they earn?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that the precedent of releasing a number of years' tax returns was started by Mr. Romney's father. If you remember, he released a large number of years, I think it was 10 or 11 years of tax returns.
But why did he have to do that?
He didn't have to do it, he did it voluntarily.
Okay, he just,
and it set a precedent.
I see, okay.
And after the precedent was set, presidential candidates released.
Did Kennedy, was that Romney?
Romney was after.
After Kennedy.
Yeah.
So Kennedy wasn't. I mean, if he released his money, I mean, that would have been billions.
I assume that you are right on that, but the precedent was set by Romney's father.
Okay. But why is it so important? I mean, for some reason he thought it was important, but other candidates don't think it. Obviously, Governor Romney doesn't think it is as important as his father. Do you agree, or what do you think?
Well, I think this is a straw man issue. The governor has released a couple of years of tax returns. He has not released his 2011 tax return because, as this show is being taped and probably even shown, it isn't prepared yet. October 15th is the final date. To me, this is an issue, an attempt led by Senate Majority Leader Reid and the Obama campaign to suggest that the class warfare issue will play with the American voter, and to avoid talking about the key issues of the campaign, which are clearly President Obama's record in the last 3 and almost 4 years since he was elected, and what the plans of the Obama administration or Romney administration would be to deal with the critical national issues, particularly revolving around the economy and unemployment.
You know, you mentioned Senator Reid, and according to Thomas Sowell, he said what makes this a farce is that Senator Reid himself has not released his own income tax records, while claiming that Romney's release of only 2 years of his income tax is not enough, even though it has been enough for other candidates in other years. What do you make of that?
Well, the precedent was set for the presidency. It was not set for members of Congress or the Senate or the people in the House of Representatives. So the difference is based on the precedent. Now, in the course of running for office, you do have to disclose certain income tax records when you're running for public office on the federal level. I'm not sure about on the state levels, so I won't comment on that. And the reason the issue came up is because it was an opening for Obama when he, Romney, took a strong position against opening. Now, speaking from a lawyer's point of view, my question then would be, what do you have to hide? If you're not hiding anything, everybody knows you're rich, everybody knows you're in the top 1%, so disclose it, and it won't be an issue anymore. And they took advantage of it. That was a good political move tactically.
What do you think, Alan?
Well, I think, first of all, that Senator Reid's use of anonymous sources who would not disclose is a new low in politics, because anonymous, undisclosed sources anything can be attributed to that kind of secret person who won't come forth. Secondly, I think that yes, more information perhaps could be gathered if we saw 10 years of tax returns instead of 7 or 8 years, instead of a few years. But believe me, the Internal Revenue Service is very good on auditing people who have significant income, and they be sure to take care of Governor Romney's tax returns. And finally, while yes, perhaps we would learn a little more with that disclosure, we would learn a lot more with the disclosure of President Obama's academic records from Occidental, from Columbia, from Harvard. What were his grades? What courses did he take? Was he admitted there as a foreign student? We don't know, because he has refused to release those records. I'm not saying this is a critical issue in the campaign, but almost tongue-in-cheek, they could arrange a swap, tax returns for academic records.
I would agree with that.
Yep.
I would agree with you on that. And I want to also tell you that Senator Reid was out of line when he did not disclose his source. But that does not take away from the point about disclosing your income tax records. And I tell you the truth, Obama, if that's what they want, he should release those records. It's okay with me. I'm not going to fight over something that as inconsequential as his tax returns or President Obama's grades. You're right, those are issues that are not important, but Romney made them important by stubbornly refusing to release the information.
But I think what fact check, in fact, they did a whole thing, fact check Romney versus Obama in the Sunday, August 19th column of Lynn Sweet. She did a lot of fact checking, and she felt that the ad was crafted to leave the impression that Romney was doing something wrong to reduce his taxes. But fact check notes there's an important distinguish between legal avoidance and illegal fraud or tax evasion, and there is no evidence that Romney broke any law. And if he did break a law, he would be in jail right now, or the federal, the federal government would do something. And because according to Reid, that he paid 0 taxes when he didn't. And I think this is an interesting article on stating that that he did pay. I think he paid what, 13%.
He paid he made a lot of money. He paid a lot of taxes.
Right. So it's showing, it makes out that he's doing something illegal. And if he was doing something illegal, he would have, the federal government would have,
Susan, I don't agree with you that to reach the conclusion that he's doing something illegal. There's nothing illegal about what he did.
Right.
As you said, they would have definitely, if not prosecuted him criminally,
right,
they would have attached his income civilly. Not every hiding of income is a criminal case.
Yes.
But the problem was, as I said before, it created an issue out of nothing.
Mm-hmm. So you said that if he just came out with his taxes and but he didn't have them ready, I guess, as
well, that's just
saying,
with respect to last year's return.
Yeah.
Is not even due until middle of
right,
October.
So, but but showing his 2000, he showed his
11 and his 10.
10 and 11.
Excuse me, 9 and 10.
9 and 10.
11 is not yet.
Okay, right. So isn't that enough? I mean, I don't understand why you have to show every year. I mean, just because his father showed it doesn't mean he has to show it, or anybody else. In fact, I mean, Obama himself, he didn't have to show it. I mean, I personally don't care how much they make. I mean, as long as they, run the government, or what's going to happen when they become president. I mean, the taxes to me are irrelevant, but I don't know why they want to show. It was something that I think it was because his money was made out of the country. I think that was the whole thing, no? That he was...
No. His money was not made out of the country. One of the many charges thrown around to avoid talking about the Obama presidency and what the president and his and Governor Romney planned to do was that he holds foreign investments. Well, I guess if you hold the Vanguard, Pacific Trust, you hold foreign investments, or if you hold the Vanguard European Index Trust, you hold foreign investments. There's nothing unusual about that. Millions and millions of people, practically everyone in the country who has a pension plan, holds foreign investments, because in their pension investments are probably, as a prudent investor would do, is a diversified worldwide portfolio. So this was just a spurious charge by Senator Reid, and I think an attempt to distract from, I agree on this, distract from the important issues of the economy and the president's record.
And why is that?
Well, because that's what in my view, the most important issues to be considered by the electorate in November are to think about how has the president done over the last almost 4 years, and which of the candidates will better be able to cope with the serious challenges that we face domestically, in the economy, in high unemployment, and in the enormous deficit.
Do you agree with Alan about that?
I agree with Alan's general statement, but until Governor Romney is specific on what he's going to recommend to cure the economic problems that we're having right now, I can't have an opinion on what his subjects are, because basically he's talking generically. Do we all want to have a better economy? Well, welcome to America. We all want that. Do we all want less unemployment? Hello, we all want less unemployment. But we have to get down to what he's going to do to create a situation where the economy gets better and unemployment is reduced substantially. And if he doesn't do that, he hasn't closed the deal. And if he hasn't closed the deal, that's where the problem is.
On the other hand, we have seen what the president has done. He promised in his campaign that unemployment would be under 8% if we passed the stimulus. Shortly after he was elected, with no Republican votes, it's been, 43 months now, and the unemployment's been above 8%. It's the longest and slowest recovery ever from a severe recession. We also know that the president has had the opportunity to take a lead. He has not passed a budget in the 3 years he's been president. His last budget was voted on, and it received 0 votes in the Congress, 0 votes in the House where the Republicans control, and 0 votes in the Senate where the Democrats control. So clearly it was not a serious budget, and the president has not, he has had an opportunity to take the lead. After he passed the stimulus and Obamacare, apparently his quiver was out of arrows, because he's proposed nothing and passed nothing.
What about, okay, then President Obama's performance on jobs and the economy? What do you think, you mentioned that Governor Romney has not set forth a itemized type of thing of how he's going to get the economy working. He's more generic. He says, we're going to get the economy working, everything's going to be fine. Because I ran a business before, I know how to fix the economy. But what has President Obama, what is his specifics, besides generic, has he set forth?
Well, you're assuming that he's able to have some cooperation from the House of Representatives in order to present the kind of plans that he wants to present to to promote what you're talking about, a budget and unemployment. My personal belief is that neither person, Obama or Romney, can control the economy. Neither one of them will be successful. It's not going to be possible for them, either one, to do it. It'll be part of a cycle, and when that cycle is completed, the economy will either improve or get worse. So those Republicans who hope that the Messiah is coming with Romney, I believe, are in for a very big surprise.
Do you also think that some of the problems that we're having with our economy has something to do with what's going on in Europe, what's going on in Greece, what's going on in Italy, what's going on in Spain, what's going on in Ireland, et cetera, et cetera? Is that part of the problem that we're having?
Are you addressing that to me or to
Oh,
Alan?
well, you're looking at
Yeah.
Of course that has something to do with Europe. And of course the problems in Europe affect the United States because we are an export-based economy to a large extent. However, if you want to see the future of the president's policies, look to Europe. Out of control, welfare state spending, years of deficits, entitlement societies. If that's where the American people want to go, they absolutely should back the president because that's the direction he's headed in. Contrary to what Irv says, for 2 years, the president had veto-proof majorities in both the House and Senate, and he gave us his policies, which were the $890 billion stimulus, which failed to reduce unemployment. Secondly, Obamacare, which is extremely unpopular, although now it's been passed by the Supreme Court. And finally, I would disagree that Governor Romney has been generic motherhood and apple pie. He's been specific about several direction changes that would take place under a Romney administration. First of all, the private sector is the one that creates jobs and opportunity, and he would stop the bashing of business, which the Obama administration has been assiduous in pursuing for the last 4 years. Secondly, stop picking winners and losers in the economy. The millions, hundreds of millions wasted on the Solandras and other green energy projects which only survive through huge government subsidies. That would stop. Third, he'd permit the XL pipeline the day after he got elected. We'd be able to provide that pipeline and drill domestically to provide more energy sources, great well-paying jobs in the United States, and reduce our dependence on foreign energy and other issues that he's been very specific on.
What about Obamacare and requiring small businesses to have insurance for their employees? Does that help small businesses? I'll give it to Irv. Does it help small businesses to have this type of policy for their employees, or is it better that they don't? Does it hurt small businesses, and maybe that's why they don't want to expand their business, because there will be a requirement? I think it's a certain amount of employees they would have to cover.
50.
They would have to cover for.
50.
Right.
Can this hurt a small business?
Can it hurt a small? First of all, I want to tell you that on our last meeting here, I predicted that Obamacare would pass. And I want to thank John Roberts, much to the chagrin of Mr. Allen here, who came over to our side and saw the error of his ways and affirmed the decision on Obamacare. Now, with respect to your question, I won't be facetious anymore. This plan is basically a private industry plan that I wasn't satisfied with. I want a single provider care for the nation, and this plan provides a subsidy for the insurance companies to become wealthy. Now, in my opinion, it's the best that he could do under the circumstances. Is it perfect? Heck no. But it does certain things. For example, pre-existing conditions. For example, having students stay on their parents' plan until 26. For example, closing the donut hole in the pharmaceutical portion of the plan. Those are good things. Now, as we gain experience from the plan, things will be cut out. That's the nature of the plan. It was the same thing in '64 when Johnson promoted Medicare. It was the same thing in the '30s when President Franklin Delano Roosevelt promoted Social Security. Oh, it's going to bankrupt the nation. Well, we're still here, aren't we?
So what do you think, Alan? Do you think, going back to small businesses, do you think that's going to hurt them, or they're not going to hurt them, or they're not going to create more businesses because of that?
Well, of course it's going to. Every burden you put upon a small business, particularly a small business which doesn't have perhaps the advantage of having staffs that can handle the huge regulatory burden, discourages people from taking the very difficult entrepreneurial step of starting a business and hiring people. And the more mandates the government imposes, the more difficult that becomes. As agreeing with Irv, the Obamacare principally addresses the issue of medical insurance, not medical care, not health care. And yes, the Supreme Court has approved the issue, but we will see perhaps how it works out over time. And just the final thing I would say with respect to his arguments about, see, Medicare, bad things were projected and look what happened. Well, what happened was the Medicare system is way, way, way more expensive than was ever projected. And if you can see a whole bunch of quotes from President Obama when he was running in 2008, that Medicare as presently constituted is not sustainable, it's got to change. And I think that what Governor Romney offers, along with Vice President Ryan, offers a plan.
Not yet, Alan.
Not Vice President, candidate Ryan, excuse me, as of very soon, offers an opportunity to really reform Medicare so it can continue rather than wait until the whole system collapses of its own weight, as everybody from both parties agrees will happen in the future.
Do you think it was a good choice of Governor Romney to pick Paul Ryan for vice president? What do you feel about that?
Well, I'm really not the person to talk to about choosing Senator or Congressman Ryan for vice president. I think Alan, as a dedicated conservative Republican, will be in a better position. Then I can comment on his comment.
I'll be happy to lay my cards on the table while Irv keeps his close to his vest. I think that the Ryan choice was an excellent choice for several reasons. First of all, it's the first major decision that candidate Romney made with respect to his presidential campaign, and perhaps reflects on how he might make decisions as a president, and he picked a serious man to deal with serious issues. And it's certainly true in contrast to Biden, who was picked to deal with foreign policy by candidate Obama and turned out to be a clown, a buffoon who no one takes seriously and says stupid things all the time. Secondly, I think that Ryan brings a lot of heft to the ticket in being able to actually present real potential solutions to some of the most serious problems that we face as a nation with respect to the national budget and with respect to Medicare.
Can I comment now?
Yeah, because we have facts and fiction. What do you think about Vice President Biden? Do you think he's a buffoon?
No, I want to go back to Ryan for a minute.
Okay, and then comment on that.
I agree with Alan. This is the second time. This is terrible. Regarding Ryan, because it creates the issues that are going to be resolved in the election. Ryan is basically a libertarian. I call him an Ayn Randian, but not quite. And Biden, you know, he calls him a fool. I call him a typical vice presidential candidate. None of them had IQs above 120, and I have a feeling that most of them had below 120. My focus would be on the presidency, but it does create the issue that I'm looking for in this election. Ryan and his libertarianism, and the Democrats running for office with their social policy. Can't have it better than that.
So are you saying that Paul Ryan was a good choice for vice president? I mean, you said most of the candidates their IQ is under 100. 120. Do you feel that Paul Ryan's IQ is more so than?
I won't comment on his IQ because I'm a Democrat and Alan is a Republican. Right. But I'll say this. I consider him to be an intelligent man, and I consider him to sharpen the issues between the parties. And I'll be happy when the election is over and the voting public can decide whether they want a man from the right, libertarianism, or close to it, or a man from the left. And that'll be the issue.
You know, you would think that when we were choosing a vice president, they would choose somebody with a very high IQ, because you never know when that person has to be president. You know, look what happened to Kennedy and other of our presidents. Didn't last very long. So we had to have a vice president stepped in. And I don't understand that. One of the remarks that Vice President Biden said that kind of stumped me was when he said that Governor Romney would put people in a accent, in a southern black accent. He would put them back into shackles or put them back into chains. Now, why would he say such a thing? Why would, that would be something. Oh, we got 2 minutes for this question.
Well, I understand your question, but I'd like to go back to what Irv said and agree with Irv that I think that this election really is a fundamental choice of 2 different directions in which America can go. Far beyond, more important about Biden or Ryan, is the choice that the American people are going to make in November of whether they want the Democratic position, which I would characterize as heavy regulation, higher taxes, much more involvement for government, versus the Republican position, which, to summarize, is much less regulation, much more reliance on the private sector, the free market, less involvement of government in everyday life.
We got 1 minute left. Do we have 1 minute? I'm talking to my camera people. Okay, what is your rebuttal on that?
I'm not going to rebut him. I'm just going to say, in the course of a campaign, politicians make dumb statements. Sometimes they mean them as a joke, and sometimes they mean them seriously. It's the same as when Romney said he can show his birth certificate. I personally believe it was a joke.
Right.
I personally believe that Biden was not serious about it, but they say dumb things.
Right.
I'm not interested in what they say. I'm interested in what they do, because that's the final test for me. Alan, you put it perfectly when you said the issue is clear. They can say all kinds of nonsense, and they have, and so what? It's a campaign.
But the media, what I see is that the media takes these little statements like the birth certificate and the shackles or the chains, and they just harp on it for days and hours. And every program that you turn on, that's what the information is.
The shallowness of gotcha journalism in the age of 24/7 coverage.
That's exactly right. And
I can't believe I have both of you agreeing on this show. I want to thank my wonderful guests. It's going down. Our things are going down. I want to thank our guests and giving us a little idea about the facts versus fiction on the presidential election. And at the end, they were both in agreement. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? I need you guys to run the government. Wouldn't that be a wonderful
I have better things to do with my time. Like come here and have a good time.